I mean, you can't have an ethical movement that requires people to be flatulent 24 hours a day. You can't, I mean, no, like, okay, do you want to be ethically right, or do you want to be farting all day? It's so sad to me. This is a 16-year-old or 17-year-old who doesn't know how to ask the right questions. You know, it's not that she has the wrong answers, that she doesn't know how to ask the right questions. So you have an ethical commitment, and that ethical commitment becomes inconvenient in a very real and meaningful sense because you're having horrible indigestion. I understand that. Where do you go next? You know what I mean? Like, how can it possibly make sense to go back to killing and eating dead animals?
At this stage, I just wanted to be a morally good person. I wanted to feel healthy, and I wanted to look healthy. I began to have digestive problems. I had never previously had digestive problems. I could eat whatever I want, and I'd be fine. But now I was feeling bloated nearly every single day. I felt yuck.
There are people who feel that good nutrition and good digestion are their birthright. You know, that it should be completely non-problematic to be full and lean and vibrant and healthy effortlessly, so to speak. And the reality is most of us have some ideas about nutrition that come from our grandparents, and they may be terrible and wrong. People feel that way about relationships too. People feel that way about love. They think love should be easy. They think like you shouldn't need any education or effort to make a relationship work or to fall in love or be in love. And someone has to sit you down and say, no, it's hard work. You know, your diet and your digestion specifically. It's not something we're born being good at. You stop paying attention for a split second, you make one mistake, and for the next 12 hours thinking, damn, I screwed that up and I wish I'd. We went to one Middle Eastern restaurant. I can't even call it Middle Eastern. It was a falafel restaurant. There was nothing Middle Eastern about it. We had vegan falafel with hummus. We had 12 hours of horrible indigestion. We both had like no sleep that night, woke up ill-rested as hell. So when you have bad digestion, it means you don't sleep properly, you can't sleep over. It was awful. And you sit there and you go, God damn it, those people don't know how to cook beans. That must have been made with raw chickpeas or just barely cooked chickpeas. They must have taken the chickpeas and just barely warmed them up on the plate. We are not mountain goats that can just chew up raw veggies and digest them. I don't even know if it's that easy for the mountain goats. Maybe they also suffer with hours and hours. And maybe if you give chickpeas to mountain goats, it doesn't go so well. I don't even know if they can tolerate chickpeas.
À-bas-le-ciel.
So today I'm going to be talking about why I am not vegan.
Okay, the way that she says it is kind of insane, just to be honest. But like, you know, I understand.
We think she's 16 or 17. I
mean,
she's somewhere in that ballpark, so go on, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, but I don't judge her as harshly as an older person. But yeah, go on.
Okay, well, I already feel like I fucked up by saying that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be like judging her then.
Sorry.
I know she's like 16, but still, like, yeah, I mean.
I felt energetic for a while. I'd stopped swimming by this point, so I didn't need all that extra protein and energy at this time. So I was like, oh yeah, vegan diet will work. And I was feeling pretty good. And then about into the 3rd month of my veganism journey, everything just started going downhill. I think it first started with basically just feeling tired a lot. And I had these like jelly muscles.
All I'm saying is weightlifting will make you feel a lot better. And she didn't actually try that at all when she was vegan.
Right. She started weightlifting after she went back to eating meat. And you're
diet.
saying the timing of when she quit doing the only sport she was doing could be related. I think there are kind of big overarching things here, and then there are little underpinning things. I think it's interesting that at no stage in this process did she consult science of any kind. Mm-hmm. Like, what were the cultural influences in her life? Her friend group, her peer group, and then YouTube personalities, including Freely and Caitlin Shoemaker and a couple others. I don't remember precisely everyone she mentioned. There were probably others she doesn't mention.
Mentioned
Tess Begg, high school dropout, Tess Begg. Wow, there's a great influence in your life. And
but yeah, like her diet was, she said she met with a nutritionist that was,
and apparently the nutritionist is a complete piece of shit. I mean, the nutritionist endorsed the most unscientific, low protein, and was a terrible influence on her.
Yeah.
Like, so like the one part of your diet that's normal is rice. So let's eliminate that and have you living just on raw fruits and vegetables. It's terrible, terrible advice, basically, for anyone. But yeah, unfortunately, the nutritionist could have been a voice of reason and wasn't. The nutritionist, endorsed an even more insane diet, But look, okay, in terms of the big overarching issue, a lot of people, whether they're 16 or 36, really feel that diet and nutrition is something that's easy or ought to be easy or even instinctual. Or, I remember a political magazine. It was an ecological, radical, or extremist magazine. And it's saying as it was the most ridiculous thing that our society can't possibly endure because in modern Western society, people can't even feed themselves. And I remember reading that. There were other interesting things, but I remember reading that and I thought, it's really interesting that for someone else reading this would find that plausible or compelling. That like in society, people ought to be able to grow their own food. That's really what it's saying, in effect. But in reality, historically, in every period of time, the first step on the progress of civilization is that we stop having to spend 98% of our time gathering and farming our own food. That's exactly the point, is that having a society at all means that you rely on other people to feed you or other people to produce, and process your food. You take the huge leap from gathering fruits and berries and so on to doing things like processing wheat into flour and then making flour into bread. And no, not everyone bakes their own bread. One person is the baker and someone else is the candlestick maker, That's but remember just reading that and thinking that's interesting. Who is the person reading this who finds that convincing, a convincing criticism side and who isn't. But likewise, on a much more broad, unexamined level, there are people who feel that good nutrition and good digestion are their birthright, that it should be completely non-problematic to be full and lean and vibrant and healthy effortlessly, so to speak. And the reality is most of us have some ideas about nutrition that come from our grandparents, and they may be terrible and wrong. I don't know what your grandparents were. Let's not get into our actual grandparents here. But, most of us, unless your grandparents were really like path-beating nutritionists from the 1920s, they were some of the first people jumping on the science bandwagon. It's like the odds are those dietary choices and habits and just cultural traditions are totally unhealthy, totally unscientific, and also just maybe way more time consuming. A lot of those traditions also were based on the assumption that every family had a housewife or servants. A lot of them also just don't fit into modern life in terms of the pace of modern life. People wake up now and eat a power bar. I remember I saw scientific research that the percentage of people eating breakfast cereal is going down. The percentage of people eating power bars is going up. And you know why, right? Who needs a bowl? Who wants to spend time cleaning a bowl after they eat breakfast, right? But yeah, that to me is kind of a big overarching thing. And then at no point, I don't think 36-year-olds are so different from 16-year-olds in that way. At no point is there a questioning of some kind of scientific source.
Yeah, obviously, if your diet isn't working, you should change it up. I know she's young, but she said she just kept going on this rice and vegetables diet, which is not,
Which she always felt hungry and she always felt she had indigestion.
Yeah, right. It also is important to note that she was reporting symptoms of, poor digestion.
Right.
And she mentioned that her mom has IBS, so it could just be some family inheritance of that.
I don't see it that way. I think the thing is most people don't even know the questions to ask when they have that kind of problem. Like you and I, I'm 39 years old. I've lived all over the world. So yesterday, I still have problems with my digestion, but I at least know the question to ask. I at least live a life where I can find out what's wrong and try to fix it. Yesterday, I had awful indigestion that kept me up late and ruined my night's sleep. It happens. And I asked Melissa, we ate almost the same thing, 3 meals yesterday. I asked Melissa, did you have indigestion? No. So I figured out the one thing that caused my indigestion was basically the one thing I ate that you didn't eat. I was like, okay, so that's what that was. That's what caused that problem. I'm not going to eat that again. And in a very systematic way as life goes on, I learn about those things and look into them. The number one problem with the vegan diet is beans.
Yeah.
Is that even the number one problem are beans? I mean, sorry, it's plural. It sounds wrong to say it is. It is beans. The problem is beans. Beans are the problem. Yeah. Beans are fantastically healthy, and most national guidelines, United States health guidelines and other countries' national guidelines, they're encouraging everyone to eat more beans. And most people don't know how to cook beans. They don't realize just how much time and energy has to go into boiling beans. Beans are not like beef in that way. Again, I don't know if you ever even did that when you were meat. You ever make a raw steak? It cooks for a remarkably short period of time. A lot of things in the meat eater's diet, like protein sources, are big and heavy, and hard, but you cook them for these very short periods of time. Chicken is not like that, by contrast. Right. But a lot of the forms of meat, you throw it, ground beef even. Yeah, throwing ground beef in a saucepan to make tacos at home. You toss it through in a few minutes. You wait till it turns brown, and then it's done, and that's it. And beans are not like that. In order to be digestible, beans and lentils need a lot of cooking. Yeah. And when I saw this the first time, this is my first time watching the whole video, but when I clicked through it, I completely assumed that the problem was exactly lentils or beans, other things like that are hard to digest, and she didn't know they were. Now, in this case, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe it's kale. Kale is fucking hard to digest. Yeah, I do. I mean, you've seen me. I once had a huge salad of kale, and you said to me afterwards, I don't think you can possibly digest that. And you were right. I mean, we're not cows. We can't digest massive quantities of a lot of those raw green vegetables like kale. We're not. We can eat lettuce, but lettuce as it exists today is 100% the product of human intervention in whatever you want to call it, unnatural selection. Of selective breeding of these plants. In nature, plants like lettuce and including lettuce have a lot of indigestible latex in them. They actually have rubber in them to protect themselves against insects and predators. I mean, most broccoli doesn't exist in nature. Broccoli, this wonderful, unbelievably nutritious food, does not remotely resemble its wild ancestor, what evolution produced in the wild. This is human selection. This proves these things. So I mean, some things are very healthy for us and very easily digestible. Some things are natural but are completely unhealthy for us, like tobacco and cocaine. Those are plants. You could just eat them out of your backyard. In theory, you can grow your own tobacco. You can grow your own cocaine until someone arrests you for it, and just eat them out of the yard. And you can grow your own aconite. If you don't know what aconite is an incredibly powerful poison, which is 100% natural. Sorry, I'm just saying. It's up there with strychnine in terms of deadly poisons in the world. But I totally sympathize. I totally relate to this thing. People feel that way about relationships too. People feel that way about love. They think love should be easy. They think like you shouldn't need any education or effort to make a relationship work or to fall in love or be in love. And someone has to sit you down and say, no, it's hard work, whether that's in terms of listening or communicating or whatever it is, or organizing your schedules. No, I mean, being in love and being in a loving relationship takes effort. Mm-hmm. It's something you work at, And, your diet and your digestion specifically, it's not something we're born being good at. I don't think people are born being good at, this kind of relationship. I mean, I think, in every relationship we learn. I have more experience with relationships than you do, but we still are learning together. We're learning how to live together, how to have a highly productive, highly effective life. I think every good relationship, you do that. Both parties, do that. Mm-hmm. I think most people, sorry, I'm so old now, I'm 39. When I was younger, when I was your age, being in a relationship and learning how to not lose your temper at the other person when they do things that really legitimately make you lose your temper, that used to be more of a problem for me. Sure, when I was 23, 25, sure, you learn, those are learned behaviors. It's not something you have just from growing up out of the womb. And I know people want it to be easy, whether it's love or diet or digestion. People deeply yearn for this beauty also. People want to be beautiful without any effort. People want to be fit and lean and lift a lot of weight without a lot of effort. And, weight training is incredibly repetitious. I mean, it is interesting in some ways. But, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like, well, now I'm going to do, this morning I did 100 push-ups. Then I went back in the afternoon and did another 100 push-ups. The floor looks exactly the same when I'm looking down at the floor doing those push-ups. It's hard work. It's repetitious. It's detail-oriented. And you know what this has in common? Exercise and digestion. And if you screw up once, you can regret it for 12 hours, 24 hours, all week.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you, like even something like a push-up, if you mess up and you go down your wrist the wrong way, if you're lifting weights and you drop the weight on your foot, you stop paying attention for a split second, you make one mistake, and for the next 12 hours thinking, damn, I screwed that up and I wish I. We went to one Middle Eastern restaurant. I can't even call it Middle Eastern. It was a falafel restaurant.
Oh.
There was nothing Middle Eastern about it. It was a totally, like white Western hipster, falafel restaurant. There was nothing authentically Middle Eastern about it. That's fine. We had vegan falafel with hummus. We had 12 hours of horrible indigestion. We both had like no sleep that night, woke up ill-rested as hell. So when you have bad digestion, it means you don't sleep properly. You can't sleep well. It was awful. It was just awful. It didn't taste bad. Okay, whatever. Anyway.
No, it didn't taste bad.
Just say, didn't taste bad going down, and you sit there, you go, God damn it, those people don't know how to cook beans. That must have been made with raw chickpeas, or just barely cooked chickpeas. They must have taken the chickpeas and just barely warmed them up on the plate. I don't think there was anything else wrong with it, but the chickpeas, or the hummus, there aren't a lot of suspects there. I think it's just the chickpeas. They were feeding us raw chickpeas.
Well,
Guess
hummus.
what? Human beings are
Hummus
not
also
goats.
Can be really
It can.
undercooked
Hummus,
and
that is true.
cause you
Absolutely.
digestive problems
The indigestion was so horrible. I just don't think there was enough hummus to account for it. I think it had to be more than just that. But, we are not mountain goats that can just chew up raw veggies and digest them. I don't even know if it's that easy for the mountain goats. Maybe they also suffer with hours and hours. And maybe if you give chickpeas to mountain goats, it doesn't go so well. I don't even know if they can tolerate chickpeas. But, beans have evolved. Anyway, it's not worth getting into the biology of it. But no, it's not easy. And like I said, like with working out, if you make one little mistake, then you really have a reason to regret it for many hours or maybe many days.
Yeah. Well, I will just say, goats wouldn't be eating dried chickpeas. They'd be eating it from the plant. So maybe it's easier to digest if it was actually, if it weren't dried and then ground up and.
This is a topic I can't speak on. But look, okay, so for me, another big issue raised by this, it's so sad to me. This is a 16-year-old or 17-year-old who doesn't know how to ask the right questions. It's not that she has the wrong answers, that she doesn't know how to ask the right questions. So you have an ethical commitment, and that ethical commitment becomes inconvenient in a very real and meaningful sense because you're having horrible indigestion. I understand that. Where do you go next? You know what I mean? Like, how can it possibly make sense to go back to killing and eating dead animals? How can that possibly be the next step? There have to be some other questions. There has to be some other source of inspiration. Yeah. Maybe it really was that. Why did she go to the nutritionist in the first place? She must have already had a problem she was trying to solve when she went to the nutritionist. She didn't tell it in that order. Yeah. But she tried to get medical help from a pseudo-scientific, pseudo-medical professional who put her on an even worse diet, and then she just gave up. So this does cause people to drop out of the vegan diet. But I think most 36-year-olds have the same problem. If they encounter a problem with veganism or they feel bad, they don't know where to go. They don't know how to fact check. They don't know what questions to ask. Yeah. But the question, am I getting enough protein, is a legitimate question. Mm-hmm. And she should have asked herself that. She said herself it was a really low protein diet she was on. She apparently didn't ask that question and didn't try to remedy it or didn't try to switch things up.
Yeah, I just want to say, this is a totally different light on this issue. I remember you did make a video once about veganism chasing a feeling. I think the YouTuber's name was Tori. But yeah, she was she went vegan and was chasing the health, the good health, the vibrant energy that people talk about while being on a vegan diet.
I think that was mentioned in a really low-key way here. Yeah, just the sense that veganism would solve all your problems or improve your health, and it really doesn't. The
first 1 or 2 months, she said she was feeling really high energy and healthy, and then after 3 months, she was having problems.
Right.
So, yeah, I think, I don't know.
Look, I don't know what to tell people culturally or practically. You can't have an ethical movement that requires people to be flatulent 24 hours a day. You can't, okay, do you want to be ethically right or do you want to be farting all day? Like, it's a real problem. It's a real issue, with beans being the most obvious problem. Beans, kale, a lot of the foods, we promote as healthy are not easy to digest, especially not when people are ignorant about how to cook them.
Yeah, I just remembered, I'm still a member of the Detroit Vegans Facebook group, and somebody posted about their son who's in middle school, I believe.
Yeah.
And she got a letter from his teacher saying that his flatulence is disturbing the class.
That since he went vegan, he farts so much in class that it's actually a problem in school.
It's so embarrassing. So, like, you want people to stay vegan, but you have to, like, go through your diet and see what's causing issues, and it's not easy. It's not really straightforward. And yeah, but I don't think it's just exclusive to the vegan diet too, because there's a lot of things. But
from my perspective, I'll end it on this note. But from my perspective, it's not exclusive to the vegan diet. It's not exclusive to diet. And I already made the comparison to exercise. But I don't think I ever told you this anecdote. I was once sitting down with a woman who had a background in doing humanitarian work, and she had converted to Buddhism. She'd become quite a pious Buddhist, although not that intellectual or well-informed a Buddhist about what the actual philosophy and core of the religion is. And she said to me, kind of angrily and self-righteously, why can't someone make a textbook for the Pali language? Pali is the name of a language. It's the most ancient language that Buddhist philosophers do. Why can't somebody make a textbook that'll make learning Pali easy? And she felt entitled to this, that learning this language ought to be easy. Yeah. And I just sat there. I stuck to my guns, and I didn't say it in a mean way. I said, why? She said, what? I said, why would it be easy? Yeah. And, she was self-righteous. She was giving defensive and offensive answers. But I remember I said to her, if somebody told you they wanted to learn ancient Greek to read philosophy, would you say that should be easy? If someone told you they wanted to learn Latin to read Cicero, would you say, oh, that's going to be easy? Like, why would this be easy? You want to learn an ancient language. You don't want to learn it well enough to just be able to get around the airport or ask where is the bathroom or ask is this food vegan. Mm-hmm. You're wanting to read this at a level that's really advanced, even for a native speaker of that language or something. Yeah. Why would that be easy? I just kept asking her that, and it did actually by the end of the conversation, it profoundly changed her perspective because she was struggling to come up with answers. Feeding yourself. I hate to say it. Why would that be easy? Living a life, an ethical life, living a morally upright life. Why would that be easy? Cuisine, cooking beans, cooking them well so they taste good and they're easily digestible. Why would that be easy? All of these things are hard, and they always have been, I think, through all of human history. You know what I mean? Why would they be easy for a 16-year-old? It's goddamn hard. And the reality is the role that used to be played by our grandparents and our parents in teaching these things, exactly these things, how to be physically fit, how to have a good diet, how to cook, whether you think of that as housekeeping, being a housewife, or cooking for yourself or whatever, and what it means to be morally upright, to be righteous, to be ethical. That used to be the grandparents' role, and right now that role is being played by YouTube. And this girl really is an example of that. Yeah. She's an example of both how people can get positively motivated and bright and bushy-tailed and try their best, and also how tragically that so often leads to them, losing their motivation and dropping out.
À-bas-le-ciel.